So, but we'll start with Anne, leader of the rebellion. Why should people be Team Katniss?
Okay. Well, first, I want to make it clear that we need to understand Katniss before we put her in a relationship and say that she should be with somebody and somebody. I mean, at the end of it, of course, I think she worked out fine with Peeta. But at the beginning of it, I've been hearing and seeing so many people post on Tumblr that they hate her because she, hurt Peeta and she was playing people. But we need to understand the dynamics of a relationship in Katniss. People always want to live people always want a fairy tale romance, and that isn't real life at all. Relationships are hard work. They are exhausting and time-consuming, and sometimes, yes, they are easy, but other times you have to work at it, and they don't develop overnight. And when someone has spent their whole life devoid of emotion or has contained herself so much, you simply can't expect them to be filled with it overnight. And these things take time. Like, people were insanely angry at the beginning of the Hunger Games when Peeta said that he loved her and then Peeta said that he loved her, and then she just, she didn't know how to deal with it. She never had the chance to deal with love. So she doesn't know what romantic love is. She's not, I honestly think she wasn't trying to play either Gil or Peeta, and she was confused in her emotions because she wasn't able to comprehend them. She wasn't able to understand that, hey, maybe I'm in love with somebody, or maybe I need to focus on not getting killed. And I believe that Katniss will, and she has loved eventually, but it's definitely one of those things that takes time, and that it shouldn't be expected of her. I think people definitely, I've noticed that the young generation, the teenagers and the young adults, they tend to think that you just jump in a relationship, that it's going to be what the media shows, that it's going to be, oh, I love you, oh, I love you too, and it's going to be a happy ending. That's not how life is. That's not how it's going to play out. And I think Susan Collins did an excellent job showing that, this girl who's never really had the chance to develop emotions and to feel emotions, and to show her progress over these 3 books. And still, at the end of the book, in the epilogue, she's still progressing as a person, and to let her develop emotionally on her own. Okay, that's all I got to say. Sorry.
Exactly.
No,
that's
great starter. I guess we'll let Theresa go next, and then the floodgates will open on all these passionate people.
Well, I mean, she made a lot of great points. I love everything that you said. I think what she said makes so much sense. I mean, Katniss spent her life growing up seeing her mother trapped away in this depression because of her dad. The accident and her dad leaving, and the pain that love actually can cause, and the love of relationships. So it's not hard to imagine that, in the environment she's in and what she sees with the Hunger Games and everything, with, not wanting a family because of the heartbreak that it can cause, not just to her, but for the safety of, any future kids. This is her decisions when she was little. This is what she saw growing up at the beginning. So it's not, hard to believe that, she doesn't really know how to love. The person she knows how to love most is Prim. That is the only person she ever says in the entire first book. The only other person that gets anything out of her that remotely is like love is Rue. And that's because of the relationship and reminding her of Prim. So just to say that. So, I mean, she goes through a lot, and, it's not, when you're in the situation she's in, and she, in the book at one point she says she doesn't have a lot of time to think about relationships, She's trying to survive. It's not about who she loves. It's about her, and her trying to, this whole time, learn who she is. She doesn't even know. She doesn't have a good grasp on herself as a character. As Peeta says at one point, she's not aware of the effect that she has on other people because she doesn't know who she is, and she grows to learn herself as she goes along. One other thing I wanted to say, and this is kind of to defend her against something Team Gale said, and I'm not sure who it was, I apologize, but Katniss did not learn everything from Gale. She learned it from her dad and being out with her dad. Gale taught her how to trap. Katniss knew how to shoot a bow and arrow before. She knew plants from her dad. She knew all of these survival skills from her dad. Yes, Gale did teach her about trapping, but Katniss did have all these other skills before. She didn't need Gale to teach her those things. And what she needed was Peeta to remind her of those things. And I'm not saying that that Peeta or Gale or whatnot at this point, Katniss, she doesn't need to be with anyone. I think she's a strong character on her own. And sometimes it's not all about the boy. And this book, to me, is not about the romance. Yes, romance is involved, but there's more going on here. And I hate to see this character broken down into, which side is she going to pick? Which guy does she love more? Because there's so much more going on.
That's perfect.
Oh, excellent.
Well,
okay, who's next? Jump in. Somebody. Team Katniss.
Patty? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you guys? Oh, okay. Yeah. Exactly. I think her whole point, she's like, love was the furthest thing from her mind. I mean, I think one of her points was like she didn't want to get married. She didn't want to have children because of the Hunger Games, for one. That she wanted to avoid that whole situation in her future. And and I think I'm more Team Peeta with her because, like someone said, it was the yin and the yang, and that she needed him to complete herself. Because, like you said, Gale was like the male version of Katniss. And I don't think she needed him, but she needed Peeta. But really, she didn't need anybody. I mean, I think her whole focus was her family, and surviving with trying to protect Prim and I think that she's just a strong, independent person on her own. And like you said, love and boyfriends and all that were just further. She didn't even think about that. And like all the other girls that were, I guess, looking at Gale at school, I think that was another point. She didn't even notice. She was like, oh, well, they're looking at him. That's why I think that, I think she's just. It's not always about the boys. It's like what I think Theresa said.
Interesting. Ariel, Team Katniss, the band. Do you agree with what you're hearing?
Yes, very much. I also just want to piggyback on some things that other people had said. Because, I want to first say that while I am Team Katniss, I do believe that Katniss needs a companion. I don't think that she needs a romantic companion. Like, she had Prim and she had Rue, and Peeta seemed to step up and be the best man for the job, fine. But I don't think that that's a romantic choice. I don't think it was really a love triangle in Katniss's mind. Because, Haymitch has his alcohol. Katniss needed something because you can't go through something like that alone. But also I wanted to bring up at the last Harry Potter con I was at Eternatus, we had a discussion about the epilogues. And one of the things that was brought up about the Hunger Games epilogue is, about Peeta and everything, is that according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Katniss is in the bottom two. She's constantly worried about her physiological needs, such as breathing, food, water, sleep, and her safety of herself and her family and everything like that. And not until she would have to be completely safe in those two areas in order to move on to the next, which is love and belonging. And she had a little bit of that with her family, but her safety and her physiological needs were never guaranteed enough that she was emotionally available for a relationship.